Okay, we're live with the Beat broadcast. Hey, folks. My name's John Henry Dale,
My name's Jesse Schulzeberger.
and pardon our delayed start. As you may know, the world of live streaming is prone to technical glitches right at the moment when you're about to go live. I think there's some kind of like little techno demon gremlin that just lives inside your computer and waits for moments like this. Some people think it's Mercury retrograde. I'm not a big believer in astrology myself, but I don't know. Have you found
Yeah.
this to be the case, Jesse?
Yeah, I think, Murphy probably never had the internet, but he would have had a field day with this.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So let's just double check, make sure we're live here on the page. Yes, we are. All right, success. So we're live on YouTube and Facebook via Restream. And so, yeah, what happened to me today was the audio interface, the solid as a tank audio interface I've been using for 10 years. It's a Roland Octacapture. All of a sudden just decided to die. Just right then, right today. Almost as if it knew. Almost as if it knew we were waiting for this moment. But we persisted and we prevailed.
That's it.
And then right before right before we were about to go live, it was like 6:55. The internet cut out. It was like beep. The whole router just turned off. I was like, okay. So, but you gotta, one thing I've learned with all of this techie stuff is, you gotta power through it. You gotta just keep on going until you make it your own or make it work.
That's
somehow
right.
or
The
other.
Fonz
So
would just kick the jukebox, but I'm not
Yeah.
sure that works with laptops.
I've been tempted. I'll tell you that. I've definitely been tempted to
Yes.
kick my laptop, but that's probably
another
a
story.
futile effort. So
All right. Well, welcome
so
to
what are we getting into
episode.
today?
Yeah, well, welcome to episode 3, and Beat Broadcast. We're back for more.
Yeah, baby.
And once again, our mission is to entertain, educate, and help build the music community. So that means we want to hear from you. So please, please leave us some comments. Share the stream with your friends. We want to try and get this out here. We are on, like you said, Facebook Live and YouTube. So you can check us out there, Beat Broadcast. And as always, we do have a virtual tip bucket. There is a link in the event. The beatbroadcasters@gmail.com is our handle. So maybe you can, if you're feeling generous, throw some coins in the tip bucket, and maybe we can get John Henry a new interface.
Yeah. Yes. Regardless of whether or not the funding level reaches that threshold, in our tip bucket,
In our tip bucket, which you probably won't.
I'm just guessing, unless we have some very kind benefactors right now
Yes.
who are watching. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to shoulder that cost myself. So what are we getting into today? We're getting into a pretty hot topic, and it's the topic of drum shoes. So I don't know if you've heard of drum shoes, but they came into my, I guess my awareness at some point in the last 10 years, maybe even a little before, when I was watching Jojo Mayer's videos and noticed he had these kind of odd-looking Converse All-Stars that seemed to sort of have a little bit extra thickness on the sole. And he, I think he had referenced those in different articles in drum magazines. But then he did a whole foot technique video. And for the drummers out there who are watching this, I cannot recommend highly enough both of Jojo Mayer's instructional DVDs. One is the Secret Weapon for Modern Drummers, which mainly focuses on hand technique and specifically the molar technique and different kind of variations and patterns he has created around that. But then also the foot video think it's just Secret Weapons for the Modern Drummer Part 2, and then it just deals mainly with foot technique. And so in that, he really gets into the whole subject of, you know, how does he get the kind of the really fast, you know, bass drum foot speed that he gets with only a single pedal.
Yeah.
And I've yet to even approach anything close to what he can do with his feet. And it's really impressive when you watch these videos of just, you know, the micro levels of precision this guy has with his feet. One thing, though, he does talk about is he uses these special shoes. And drum shoes, which I'll show you in a minute with the bass drum pedal cam. They have a leather bottom, and they're not expensive to make. I think I got mine done for like $40 maybe, and any shoe repair place should be able to do it. And it's really just a basic thing of taking whatever shoe you're using, and they cut out a leather sole that you know fits the bottom of your shoe, and then they glue it on and kind of do a little, you know, make like painting it maybe to match your shoes. That's what they did with mine. And there you go. Then you got a pair of drum shoes. Or you could just use any other pair of like leather dress shoes. But the reason I think Jojo Mayer did it with Chucks is because they're one of the most common shoes out there in the world. You know, they're just everywhere. And so I think part of it is to be able to like, you could pick up a pair or make a pair of these anywhere. And so that's kind of what I did myself, following his lead. But another person who recommends leather-bottomed drum shoes is Bernard Purdie. And if you haven't heard of Bernard Purdie, you need to get on the Google, and you need to Google Purdie Shuffle and watch this guy lay it down, because he's the master of
yes, his YouTube
shuffle funk.
His YouTube Purdie Shuffle is probably the greatest drum video of all time.
It's up there for sure.
It's hilarious.
It's top 5. Yeah, because he's such a like jolly old soul, you know. And he's like just cracking up laughing. And he's like, man, we're gonna do it. And he's like always just busting out laughing, because he's like, you know, and his whole deal. This dude, and on the Drumeo video, he's played on like 4,000 albums. You realize? Yes. I mean, like, can you imagine? It's crazy. And there's some speaking of hot topics, there's some pretty hot drum forum stuff about like that maybe he played some of Ringo's stuff.
Yes, that's the urban legend, right? That's the legend.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't speak to that, but there's definitely some talk out there that he may have played on some of the tracks so maybe some of those albums are uncredited, you know, and that's kind of how things happened in the 60s sometimes, you know. A lot of the background players didn't maybe get the credit they deserved. But anyway, Bernard Purdie, and he came down hard on this topic, saying, and he's like, listen, I know you guys might not want to hear this, but all you drummers out there wearing sneakers with rubber soles, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah,
you gotta have leather bottom shoes. And the reason is pretty simple, because it's just less resistance. It's less friction. You know, you got to think a rubber sole is going to have friction that will, you know, inherently be more resistant to the sliding motion of your foot on the bass drum pedal than a kind of a smooth polished leather one. So anyway, with that said, we wanted to get into a little bit of a test of like, okay, let's see how this actually works. And this is maybe not the most rigorous scientific test, but I think it for our purposes, it'll work. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out playing with my regular shoes. And I've got 2 identical pairs of Chucks, and one has leather bottoms and one does not. So I'm going to start playing eighth notes at 160 BPM, 180 BPM, and then 200 BPM, and just see if I can maintain that with see how high I can get, you know, how many BPMs I can get and consistently play those eighth notes, which is just like, you know, it's like da, 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 you know, it's like, yeah, subdividing a beat into 8 notes, right? So I'll play, you know, quarter note. The quarter note will be the metronome, and then I'll try to play 8 notes with the bass drum, and we'll see how fast I can get with my regular shoes consistently, and then we'll see how fast I can get subdividing with my yeah, with the leather shoes on. So let me, and we'll see how fast I can get. Hey, Jesse, I'm not sure.
Sorry.
Your computer might be replaying the stream there.
I gotcha.
Okay, so I'm going to switch up this for a second to foot cam. So give me just a second here. And okay. There we go. Okay, so also down here you can see I have the Jojo Mayer designed perfect balance pedal. This is something new I picked up. I've played Axis pedals, which are direct drive pedals, for years, and I love the feel of them. But the Jojo Mayer pedal it's a cam style pedal, and it's something he designed in concert with Sonner drums, who I think he's sponsored by. So anyway,
yes.
Using his pedal as well, and he kind of obviously recommends that since it's his pedal. But it's actually a really good drum pedal, and I would recommend it too. If
Can you tell me about that
style.
beater? Is that the factory beater?
Oh no, it's not. No, that beater is a Vic Firth. What's it called here? VKB5, something like that. Anyway, just look for the wooden shaft. Vic Firth beater, and I got into that because I'd been reading some posts about trying to kind of distribute the weight of the beater for, you know, down the shaft and not have such a top heavy kind of thing, and that can help sometimes. So that's a little background on that. So okay, so here is regular shoes, right? Regular
Nice. I like you wear your clean socks for this.
Yeah, I got my avocado socks. So thanks to Patty for those.
Yeah.
So here's, you know, you can see this is standard Chuck soles, and then here is drum shoes, which have leather bottoms, and these look a little scratched up. He painted them black originally, and so I've kind of scored off some of the paint. But if you look at the light, you can see they're pretty. It's a pretty smooth surface. All right, so I'll start out with the regular drum shoes, or the regular non-drum shoes, I should say. Okay, so we'll start out at 160 here. I'm going to put on the metronome. Tell me if you can hear this okay.
Yep.
Is that coming through?
Yes, sir.
All right, so that's quarter notes, right? So pretty easy. That's okay. I'm not even raising my heel up, just doing heel down on that. That's 160 BPM. So we'll go up to 180. Technology. Okay, so here's 180 BPM. So that's getting a little more difficult. 180 is that's hard to keep up, but I can still do it. So now we'll go up to 200 BPM. All right. So here's 200. So you can see that's starting to fail. I'm starting to be able to definitely not keep that with just my heel down. right? So let me try this again here. So I've got to bring my heel up. I'll go up to like I'll go up to 220. Let's just try it. Oh my God! Why does this thing keep? I'm trying to tap the. Oh my God! Technology, man. I'm trying to tap up the rate of the BPM, and it's like, oh, you want to select all this? You know, iOS does the select thing when you tap. Anyway. All right, here's 220. All right, so there's no way I can maintain that like for any length of time. That's just like I can get little bursts, right? So
Right.
so that's about, that's I'd say like 200 is really my limit on regular drum shoes, and I can feel it. I can feel the
The
just the
grip.
resistance of that rubber, and if it's humid too, depending on rubber, if you got a humid, I mean, down in Miami it's humid a lot of the time. And so that can definitely affect you.
Yeah.
All right, so let's try the drum shoe.
And I've seen a lot of guys. We were talking about this the other night. I've seen guys, who play in their socks. And they're getting
socks
the same,
is.
they're getting that slide or they're getting their dress shoes.
Yeah,
I
socks
do
work
not
too
wear
for some people.
dress shoes very much. I mean, when I do, if I have a fancy gig, but
Yeah.
I generally wear worn out skateboard shoes,
Do you?
which are pretty slippery.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anything that's got a little less. Tread,
Grip. I'm not wearing
on
hiking shoes or something really aggressive.
Right. All right. So I'll start at 180. We don't need to go down to 160 on this. I'll start at 180 with the drum shoes here. All right. So here's 180 BPM, quarter notes. So that's just heel down. And I can already feel that's easier, just even heel down doing 180. So I can. Getting a little off the metronome there, but I can feel like that's a little easier. So we'll go up to 200. So I got to lift my feet. 200 is about where I need to start. Maybe 180 is really where I need to start lifting up and doing.
That's when you transition from the heel down to the heel up position.
Yeah. You really you cannot get that speed. Or I cannot, at least, with heel down technique. So we'll go up to 220 again here. All right, here's 220 BPM. So that's even hard to do with these, but I can feel when I am getting it, I'm able to do a consistent eight strokes through,
Sure.
So. Let's try 230. And that's about it. That's right now. That's about my physical limit that I can even get to.
Nice.
So I don't know if this is the most conclusive thing in the world, but I can tell you right now, just the feel of this shoe going up, and then it also helps. Some of these pedals have a lot of like contoured, embossed metal on them. So one of the things he wanted to do with this is get a very smooth playing surface.
Yes, I
So
know my
this is
DW here has like, the numbers and the DW sort of embossed.
Yeah. And I learned on a 5,000 pedal, and I liked them. I didn't, and to some degree, this is like, okay, we're splitting hairs here, because it's like, how many people, unless you're a speed metal drummer, I mean, who's doing 220 BPM consistent, like eighth notes on a bass drum?
Right.
Yeah, with 1 foot.
I mean people do it.
But it kind of it does bring up the point of like, well, why not make it easier for yourself at any speed?
Right.
Why not reduce resistance at any speed? And that's, for me, what that's just what I've seen. That's what I've seen it do. So I'm pretty much a convert to drum shoes, but I haven't seen a lot of other people doing it. And I think typically the ones who do are maybe kind of more old school people, or more new school people who've gotten into Jojo Mayer,
or maybe some of these like guys who are playing really fast metal. I've seen those guys. I've seen those guys wearing like ASIC wrestling shoes.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like a slipper.
Yeah. I don't know how they do it, honestly. I've been working with a double pedal, this offset symmetrical double pedal I got, and it is like, I cannot understand how these guys do.
You got to work out. So
entire gigs with like playing that speed.
Well, I think stylistically that's what it wants. Just rolling kick drums.
Right.
I don't think either of us, our heads are in that place. We don't probably listen to a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like to hear a drummer with fast feet sometimes, but maybe not, that style is not where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, the physical virtuosity of it's really impressive, and it's always like, I've been to a bunch of metal shows with my friend Aaron. He's super into like every shade of metal you can imagine. So that's kind of been my exposure to it.
Right.
I've not been to like dozens, but I've been to maybe 10
right,
those kinds of metal shows, and I love it. I love watching it, but it doesn't necessarily it almost feels like it's more like an endurance, a physical endurance, like an athletic contest as well as music.
Some of those guys,
and
they train to do that stuff. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
You have to. You got to be on it.
Yeah. So that's like, how much are you going to do? How much are you really going to become like you got to become a kind of an athlete of the drums.
Yeah.
So like a super athlete. Dragon Force. That was a band I saw. That was who I remember seeing there.
Who's that band?
Dragon Force is this kind of. It's kind of like, I don't know what kind of metal you call it, but it's like kind of poppy prog, kind of like almost silly, sort of like super. It's like Anyway, check them out. They're good fun. So what else we got?
Yeah, so we had talked about just what you're doing with your foot, and this had came up in conversation the other day, and really we got triggered on this when you said, I can play this burst, right? You're like, I can play this burst really quick, but the problem is sustaining that burst, right? And
right.
I think a lot of drummers, I think we've experienced that, where we can play that burst, but it's hard to keep it going. So
yeah.
When I was younger, a lot of times I was trying to work on speed. I was like, and I'd wind it up to this tempo, and then I couldn't sustain it. It would just.
Like, where were you doing that? Like, were you just in practice, or in
practice? Yeah. Trying to work on my own personal speed. I'm just trying to go a little faster, work on my chops.
Yeah.
Problem was, I was getting to this sort of threshold that I couldn't maintain, and then it would kind of fall apart. And for a long time, I'd hit it and I'd back off and kind of do this with it, and I wasn't really seeing the progress that I wanted. So then I kind of worked on this exercise that I've been doing, and it's real simple, and it helps you learn to extend that burst, right? So the drill is super easy, and I think you could easily apply this to your foot or really any rudiment. I tend to do it with myself. I use this as a warm-up all the time. Maybe I show up for a gig, and I like to warm up slow. and then go from there. But I do this with students a lot who are trying to get their speed up a little bit. The cool thing about it is it uses the metronome, and you can track your progress with the metronome, which is nice. You're not just playing fast in space where you don't know where you're at, right? So you're getting a couple things on this drill. You're getting time because you're practicing with that metronome, right? And then ultimately you're gaining speed. So here's the drill, real easy. I play 1 bar of eighth notes, and we're just going to do singles. 1 bar of eighth note singles, followed by 3 bars of 16th notes. Okay, so that whole exercise sounds like this. Okay, so say I set the metronome at whatever. You can start off easy. For young students, I tell them start slow because learning to play with the metronome is a skill set in itself, right? Like learning to comfortably play with that metronome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what I do is I'll start at 150. Let's say 150. You got that, John Henry?
Got it.
And then I'll play... So here. And here I've got my metronome set to eighth notes.
Okay.
Now, once I've mastered that tempo at say 150, then I jack it up to 160 and I repeat. Okay, and then do the same thing until I can do that 3 bars straight. Okay? Then we're going to reach our sort of breaking point where we can no longer play 3 bars of 16th notes. Let's say it's at a 200 beats per minute.
Okay.
I can play a bar of eighth notes, but I can't sustain the 3 bars of 16th. So then I go from a bar of eighths to 1 bar of 16ths, and I master that.
Okay.
And then once I've mastered that, then I go to 2 bars of 16ths, and then finally 3 bars of 16ths until I can master that sort of level, and then I jack the metronome up again. Okay. Now, if sometimes that 10 beat BPM jump is too much, especially when I get up into the 200s.
Yeah.
So then I found maybe you want to jump up in the metronome by 5 clicks or even 2 clicks, whatever's comfortable until you can do that. So you just keep repeating and repeating and repeating. So
did you
that's
have
a really
like
great
ultimate
drill. You can definitely apply that to what you're doing with your foot, and you can sort of put a numeric value to what's happening in your with your playing. And it's a great way, I think, to help build up some speed, and hopefully that helps some folks.
Did you ever set like an ultimate target of like, okay, I want to be able to do this at like 250 BPM? I mean, because ultimately, there is a limit to speed of the human body, right, that you can't go beyond, So did you ever, in your mind, you're like, okay, I want to be able to do this consistently, 3 bars of these 16th notes at
I mean, at least 200. I try and keep that really nice and steady. Again, I don't find myself needing to play ultra fast all the time. That's not the kind of music I'm really into, but it's nice to have that in the tank, and it's nice to be able to, like, if I want to do that quick thing, I can do it. And especially once I start playing, I might be at a slower tempo, but I'm playing 6 tuplets. So it is more strokes per beat. So I need that little extra speed, I really started doing this when I started teaching more drumline students who are having to play these quick tempos, quick cadences and stuff.
Yeah, speaking of athleticism, I mean, drumline is such a physically rigorous, form of drumming.
Yeah.
You gotta just be so on point, and if you're not, they'll just yell at you, or just kick you off the squat.
Yeah.
Like you gotta be already good just to get into it.
It's interesting because when I was a kid, I didn't play drumline. I actually played brass. I was marching trumpet and tuba, sousaphone. Yeah, I didn't really never marched drums. I played in the school jazz band and played drums, and then when I went to college, I played for the jazz band, big band, but was never a drumline guy. And then once I started teaching, I kind of had to get into it a little bit just so I could help my students out. So maybe that's something we'll talk about next week. How to
Yeah, I'd love to
apply
get
some
into some
drumline rudiments that I've been working on to the kit, and I think that's cool. I have a lot of students who do both. They're on the drum line, but they play in the jazz band. So it's like, how do I spend all this time learning all these things, and then now what?
Yeah.
Football season's over, halftime show's over, and I got these licks, but what do I do with them? So how do I apply that? So pretty fun.
Yeah, did you ever watch that movie? I think it was called Drumline, wasn't it?
Drumline,
The movie?
yeah.
Yeah, that's a great movie. Even if you don't like drums, even if you're not a drummer, definitely check out Drumlines. Nick Cannon and who else was in it?
I don't know.
I
haven't seen that for so long.
Yeah, I think it came.
That was like if you had a sub in music class, you'd watch that.
Yeah. It's a great. I mean, it's one of the best drum movies out there. Besides,
right, the guy was an incredible player, but he couldn't read. That was the whole premise of the movie, right? He couldn't read, but he couldn't read music, but he
could
play.
memorize
He could play
everything,
circles around anybody if you heard it. So
yeah. Another great drum movie is Whiplash.
Oh yeah.
Some people love it. Some people hate it. I felt like it was a
Yeah.
little. It took a little bit of took some liberties.
Oh
But
yeah.
overall,
when
I
he
liked it.
punches through the snare drum,
Yeah,
I'm like, dude, really? You're gonna do that? I had some students come to me and go, man, did you see Whiplash? I'm like, geez, man, you're 12. That's got some serious language in it. I mean, it's.
not-
I think it's rated R. It's pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty fierce. So,
Yeah.
hey, can you teach me the solo on Caravan on that? I'm like, no, you're not even close to even approaching this, right? It's just like,
Yeah.
it's entertainment, I guess.
I mean, I've literally never had any music teacher even approach that level of
Throw a chair at you.
just pure, like.
I've had some band directors
Pathology.
scream
I mean, that
and
guy
yell
was
at me
crazy.
before.
Have you? Okay. Okay.
I've seen that. I mean, maybe not to that level.
Yeah.
I remember my high school band director was, she would scream at us.
Yeah. Well, what? I should correct. In concert band in college, we would get like a talking to, but it wasn't like this sort of merciless,
You're
derision
worthless. You're
that this guy
awful.
laid onto
Degrading.
this poor
Just
drummer.
why don't you quit?
Yeah, it was.
You don't
just like-
belong. Right. That's awful.
Yeah. But,
All right.
anyway,
well, cool.
so
I think
there
we
you go.
could. I think we can move on down the road here, buddy.
Yeah. What else we got?
We got some birthdays, and I think you're gonna kick this section off.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, birthdays this week. Was that today?
Actually, what is today? It's the 20th, 19th. I don't even. I think today's Wednesday, right? I think today is his birthday.
No, May 17th actually. So
Oh,
it
I'm
was a
sorry.
few days ago. Yeah.
Okay.
And that would be the drummer named Bill Bruford, or William Scott Bruford, born in 1948. I guess he's around 71 right now. Bill Bruford played with Yes, the band you may have heard of, and King Crimson. Briefly played with Gong, which is one of my favorite
I saw
rock
Gong.
bands.
I
Did you
got to
really?
see Gong.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're amazing. I love them.
He wasn't playing drums for them, but
No, it was a real brief stint he had with them in the 70s, like just kind of in between gigs. Because I think he played with Crimson, and then in '74, Fripp like disbanded King Crimson for the first time or one of many times. Anyway, so he then got into the '80s, and he had his own band, which shares a name with some really high-end drum microphones out there, and his jazz band was called Earthworks. I was going through some of their stuff yesterday. It's a little angular in that '80s jazz fusion kind of way. There's some cool stuff in there, but nothing to me that sort of had the same impact as his stuff with Yes and King Crimson. But one of the things he was really well known for, at least in the kind of early '80s, late '70s, going into like mid '90s, was working with electronic drums. And he was one of the first drummers out there, kind of really pioneering having those on stage for major shows. And one of the kits he used, one of the drum manufacturers in those days, and one of the few that were really putting a lot of effort into it, besides Roland, was Simmons, and that's a company he I guess was sponsored by. So he had these huge Simmons electronic drum kits, and it was very 80s. There's even a good clip of him on a British talk show, like demonstrating the whole Simmons drum kit that he had. And so yeah, so I wanted to just play like a little bit of a kind of example of some of the sounds you might have heard on. This isn't like a necessarily a lick that he played, but like just kind of inspired by some of the Simmons drum sounds that he played with, which you'll hear on like all over King Crimson and then his Earthwork stuff as well. So that's some of the sounds you would hear him play, and there's a few tracks, King Crimson tracks, where there's one where he's doing this ostinato pattern much better than what I just played, which was purely off the top of my head. Um, he's kind of playing this. It's almost like a slit drum sound, something a little similar to that in a King Crimson track, and it's just really hypnotic. And I think he got really into that kind of almost trying to sound like a drum machine type sound. But his stuff in the '70s really had very very well, like pretty sizable influences on the whole prog drumming community. And he was kind of one of those people that everybody kind of knew and loved from the English prog scene. Oh, he was also in a band called UK. I found out, which was actually the name of a prog band. And so one of the things about he also got into a band called Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe, or maybe just Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe. And I think the thing was, like, in the '70s, and I've got some backstory on this, like, there was so much interchange with all the prog bands, all the English prog bands. Like, all these people were just kind of like playing with one band, and they get out of this one other band, and the scene was pretty small back then, relatively to how it is now. And so many of these people ended up playing with each other or leaving one band, and going into another. So he left Yes to go play with King Crimson. And I think he's kind of equally known for both, being in both King Crimson and Yes. And the founder of King Crimson, Robert Fripp, was, I think, the first live concert I ever saw. And the reason for that was that Robert Fripp actually came and founded a school of guitar craft at Claymont, the Claymont Society for Continuous Education, which is the intentional community where I grew up in Charlestown, near you in Shepherdstown. So I grew up there, and he came in like 1983, I think, or maybe '84, and started doing these guitar craft courses that basically required all the students to use Ovation guitars, the same kind of those plastic back Ovations. And I think the idea for that was to just get a uniform kind of tone, so that there was just this sort of like everybody was on the same page as far as like what their tone was, and it wasn't like and it was almost like a combination of like a Zen meditation course with playing guitar, but they did these really complicated arpeggios and ostinatos, and also were playing in what's called the New Standard Tuning System, which was a tuning system that Robert Fripp came up with, I think while he was sitting in a hot tub or a sauna at some point. And true story. And so that system also kind of just the idea was that it would get you out of your normal, EAD, GBD, kind of standard guitar tuning mindset and just play different music. So that's some of the first music I ever heard, was this really oddball, kind of progressive acoustic electric guitar from Fripp. And then later on, that kind of got me into this, prog stuff in the, late 80s and 90s. But so yeah, little tie-in there. And yeah, so there you go.
Very cool.
Happy birthday to Bill Bruford. He did stop playing, I think, in like 2009. He retired.
He
and I
retired?
think he retired from playing publicly. Some of these guys go until they're 90, and I think Bill
Right.
Bruford was sort of like, okay, I'm good.
Go out
And he
on
stopped
top.
doing the electronic drum stuff around 95. And he said, he was saying like, basically he just got tired of all the techie,
Yeah,
the tech hassles.
I could. Yeah,
He
Okay.
was like just getting into deep into MIDI programming these drums. And he's like, ultimately it started just taking away from the music. I'm just spending all this time teching these drums,
Right. Yeah.
So,
I'm sure he had
But-
guys helping at that point.
but yeah. Anyway, happy birthday to Bill Bruford.
Cool.
And thanks to him for a great legacy of music that he's put out there. What else we got?
Yeah. So, well, we another birthday this month in May. We wanted to cover is Sly Dunbar.
Nice. From Sly and
Better
Robbie.
known as the half of Sly and Robbie.
yeah.
And these guys have played on tons and tons of reggae albums.
Yeah.
I got this quote here I thought I'd read. This is pretty cool. This is from Brian Eno. And Brian Eno said, when you buy a reggae record, there's a 90% chance that the drummer is Sly Dunbar. And you get the impression that Sly Dunbar is chained to a studio seat somewhere in Jamaica. But the real deal is his drum tracks are so interesting that they just keep getting recycled.
Yeah.
They're sampling them into reggae stuff. So I thought that was really cool because he is on a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
So some of the kind of notable stuff, I thought this was kind of cool. He said his mentor when he was coming up was Lloyd Knibb, who played for the Scotalites,
Oh,
which
wow.
I thought was pretty cool.
Okay.
And he said he was really influenced by Al Jackson Jr., who played for Booker T and the MGs.
Wow.
And he was really into the whole like Philly sound.
Okay.
And then he
Like
said,
Philly
at the
soul.
time in Jamaica, there were all these drummers coming up, especially as reggae became more popular. So he's like, I listened to what those guys were doing. I did my thing. I created my own sound. And I think that's the takeaway on any drummer.
Yeah.
We listen to the guys we like, and then at the end of the day, we want to sound like us. So
Nice.
some of the stuff he played on I thought was pretty cool. He's the drummer on Police and Thieves, Junior Marvin, which is
Okay.
super mega hit, right? But he also played on all 5 Peter Tosh studio albums.
Okay.
Played Beanie Man with Sean Paul, Black Uhuru, Gregory Isaacs, Dennis Brown, all these cats, right? And then he went on and helped to produce for Madonna, Dylan, Mick Jagger, Grace Jones. The list goes on. Joe Cocker,
Wow.
Modest Yahoo, Santana.
Modest Yahoo. Wow.
Yeah, Modest.
He's that's some.
Michael
that probably gave
Fronte
him-
and Sinead O'Connor. Now I'm just gonna put this out there. He did Sinead O'Connor did a reggae album. His
What?
baby, it is great.
Really?
I think it's called "Throw Down Your Arms" is the name of the album. I can double check that.
No idea.
It is so. And Sly and Robbie are the rhythm section. Okay. Now,
kidding.
if you know anything about Sinead O'Connor, I'm not a huge fan, but she's kind of, she's sort of religious, and she sings about religion a lot
Right,
in her music. And when you listen to this album, you go, man, this is it, because the whole Rastafari thing, it is very, religious in a sense,
Well, it's
you
very
know.
Christian oriented.
Yeah, and
Rastafarianism.
she just kills it. The album is great. Check it out, Sly and Robbie. So, anyways, what I did here is, like I said, he played on "Police and Thieves" by Junior Marvin. If you don't know the song, check it out. It's a very, very famous reggae tune. The Clash went on to cover it, and they kind of made it famous. So here's kind of the groove that he did on "Police and Thieves." So it was like a Okay, now I thought that was really hip, and then he worked with Lee Scratch Perry a bunch. Okay, and he wound up playing on the Punky Reggae Party, Bob Marley's Punky Reggae Party, which was like this 12-inch release. And I think it was maybe the only Marley tune he played on. Okay? So, and that is on, that's the Exodus album, 12-inch. And so...
So that's kind of surprising considering, okay, like how prolific they were in reggae, but they didn't play with...
well, Bob Marley had his own guys, right?
Yeah.
And then remember, at some point in there, Lee Perry got a hold of a bunch of the Bob Marley stuff and reworked it, right?
Okay.
And I think that's when he brought Sly and Robbie in to do this. So Sly and Robbie, if you check out the Punky Reggae Party 12-inch mix, it's on YouTube or wherever, but he does a very similar beat. And as I was listening to it, I was like, man, this is so close to Police and Thieves. Yeah, it was very similar. So he plays this. So very similar to Police and Thieves, except instead of playing the sort of one drop,
right,
bass line, he's playing, which I think this pattern is called the Steppers pattern. It's like this. Eighth notes on the kick drum.
Yeah, almost more of a rock steady kind of.
Yeah, and as a side note, I would say if anybody who's interested in this stuff, I've been checking this guy out for a while. This cat, Gil Sharon, he does a really great demonstration of this. I saw him on YouTube. I think he did it off of Drumeo.
Okay.
You can check it up. It's like 15 reggae grooves, but he does a really great job of walking you through the styles. Gil Sharon played for like Dillinger Escape Plan, and he played with Marilyn Manson some too. But he's beyond rock, he's a really good reggae drummer, which I never really knew until I just kind of caught him one day.
Yeah.
So, anywho, right. So what I'm gonna do here, it's getting late on us again, but I am gonna go ahead and run this track down for us if I can find it, and here we go. This is a little sort of Sly Dunbar inspired.
yeah, nice.
Yeah, a little fun thing.
Yeah.
All
So
right,
what was
cool.
that? Is that like is that sort of just a kind of a dub backing
Little,
track?
yeah, just
or,
a
yeah.
little
That'd
loop
be
thing I
kinda-
put together. A
yeah.
little loop. I have like a little loop pack I mess with sometimes, and just
Nice.
stack them up and write a little loop and kind of get my tempo where I want it. It's a cool way to get creative, you know. And I've
Yeah,
done
I
three or
love the
four
dub
of them
sounds
now.
on that pad you got.
Oh yeah, the
those
dub
are-
sounds
yeah.
are coming off of my Alesis Sample Pad Pro,
Right.
and those were not factory. I dug
yeah.
those off the internet and loaded them to the thing. And
Nice.
these dub patches in the suite that I got, it's like maybe 30 different dub patches, and then it gives it to you at like 80 beats per minute, 120 beats, and then like something
Oh, so you can
something faster. So,
That's
so
like
I can't.
the delay tail time or whatever.
Yeah, I can get at least close. You know, I don't want to
Right,
necessarily. If
right,
I want a slower one, I can use the 80 or I can use the 180 or whatever.
Does that have onboard effects on that where you can do like? kinda
Not on this. The only thing it has is reverb and pitch.
Yeah. Okay.
Pitch control. Now I
pitch
could run it
yourself up or
into
down.
my mixer and add anything I wanted to.
Right.
You know. But I honestly like it as I use this on gigs all the time. I like it because it's kind of set it and forget it, you know.
Yeah.
And I write I write patches for whichever songs I'm gonna do, and just you know each song has its own program and just I kick it up. I change it with the set list.
Yeah, that's
And,
the thing you want with these drum pads. You want them to be just effortless and
Yeah,
bomb-proof
I
and-
learned that from you, and you know instead of trying to go through, oh man, I want to change this one to a hand clap for this song. You know,
Yeah.
it's impossible. That's
Yeah.
the thing I like about this. I can have 20 kits programmed for the whole show and blah blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah and
just
on to
cycle
the
through 'em.
next.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot more of those out there. I think Alesis' quality level for the electronic drum stuff has kind of come up in recent years. It used to be there a little janky.
Yeah,
but
well, yes, I had
I'm-
one, and it was janky.
Yeah, but that you didn't have like the pro one, right? With like the nice pads.
Oh, so somebody we did get a comment.
Oh, okay.
Someone said that Sinead O'Connor is now a practicing Muslim,
What? No, she's
and
not.
she
Come on.
she's doing some new music. So I'm gonna have to check that out. That's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't
Okay.
know that. I didn't know that about her.
I did not know that either.
Yeah. I remember her back at some time way back. Remember she tore up the picture of the Pope on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, that was big
was-
controversy.
Big deal. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Oh, my mom said that. Sinead
Was
is
your
a
mom?
practicing Muslim at present and doing some new music.
So your
now.
mom's a
Thank you,
Sinead
Mom.
fan, I guess. I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's also watching, which is
Great.
awesome. Thanks, Mom. I appreciate you coming and checking out our little drum show here.
Yeah. So
And
that's
thank
gonna
you to
about do-
everybody else.
Yeah. Yes, and that's going to about do us for this week. And we would like to urge everybody to please share the feed. You know, even once we're off, it'll be on here. It's archived. Share it. Share the page. Tell your friends. Check us out on YouTube. Like, subscribe, the whole deal. Leave us some comments. And you know, if you got questions for us, again, please comment, or you can email us at thebeatbroadcast@gmail.com. And
it's
Beat Broadcasters.
at
Yes.
gmail.com.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is also our PayPal handle.
Right.
And there is a link for that in the thing. So if you're feeling generous and you want to throw some coins in there, that is greatly appreciated.
It's paypal.me/thebeatbroadcast. And then our Facebook address is just where you're at right now, facebook.com/beatbroadcast. We don't have an individual URL for YouTube yet, but hopefully we will get that soon. And we're going to be putting up some clips. I know these shows are, they're a little long, but I'm going to go through and make some clips of the last 3 shows. But yeah, we'll be back next week and with some more thrilling and titillating drum topics that remain to be seen.
Yes, that's
TBD.
right. We don't even.
We got to figure out next episode, right?
We got a couple.
So.
Yeah, that's right. And so we'll catch you all next week at Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So thank you all very much for joining us.
Yep. This is the Beat Podcast, everybody, and we will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.